Hello, everyone, from me and Coco. Happy Sunday morning. I am so happy to be here with all of you. It's a great pleasure to be here for the 10th lesson, so the 10th day of the New Decade Challenge. I hope that you took the time over the past few days and weeks to do the first lessons, right? So from 1 to 9. I hope that you took the time to do everything that you had to do in week 1, as well as everything that you have to do in week 2. So as I said, week 1 was all about feminine energy, was all about that 80%, which is the mindset. And then we went on to week 2, which was about the masculine energy, so that 20% of your success, basically. If you are live here and you're on the platform, all you have to do is, if you want to access the chat so that we can chat a little, you can just click on the link that you see on top. You just click on top of it, and then you'll be able to access the chat. Here we have Orchidée, who's giving us a kiss. Hello, Orchidée. Nice to see you here. We just finished the French live. Orchidée was there too in the French live. And now we're going to be doing the English, of course. Now, before we get started with the Q&A, as you can see from the title of this lesson of this video, I want to dive into a few little things that I think are essential, when it comes to creating your best decade yet. Remember, on the first day of this challenge, I talked about the 10 aspects of your life, so your physical health, your emotional health, spirituality, love, and social life, and all of them. So I talked about the 10 aspects. You evaluated yourself when it came to the 10 aspects to know how much you give yourself from 1 to 10, or from 0 to 10 in each and every single one of them. And I feel like throughout the past few lessons, I've shared a lot of things when it came to, let's say, organization and time management, of course, then also even a little bit of spirituality, then even, of course, also a little bit about career, since it's about, purpose that we talked about, and even a little bit about social life and love and relationships, because I think that when you improve yourself, you improve that aspect of your life too, right? But I feel like one thing that I didn't talk about was about your finances, and I think it plays such an important role in our lives. At the end of the day, as I always say, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but in this human experience, money matters. That's the truth. Money matters. And as much as I love to consider myself a spiritual woman, I still know that money really matters, and money is very important in my life, because without it, then you struggle, and if you struggle, then all you think about is security and how to survive. And if all you think about that, well, then you can have a big and great impact on the world, and that's a problem. And I've been there in the past where, if you don't know how you're going to eat, how you're going to do your groceries, well, you can be thinking about how you're going to impact the world. It's very hard to do that, right? So I'm going to share a little bit of that with you today. Another thing that I want to share with you, actually, before we start with that, is that this week I was doing a big cleaning, and I would highly recommend that you do the same. Normally, if you, oh, sorry, Coco, I hit Coco in the head. It's the second time I did it in the French live too. If you did the exercises, that I shared with you in the day of, take the trash out, on how to, take out the things that no longer serve you, and the things that you don't use. Well, normally you should have done this, especially when I talk about the objects and the things around you, and even the clothes that no longer represent the person that you're trying to become. You should have done this. But if you haven't, here's what I want you to do before the end of this year. I want you to do a big cleanup of your house, as if it was, the spring cleanup, spring cleaning. I do this twice a year. I do it for spring, always, but I also always do it before the end of a new year. Of course, I clean my house in between, right? But the big cleanup, the big cleaning and taking things out and throwing things, I do it twice a year. And because I'm leaving actually tomorrow, if you're watching this live, it's going to be tomorrow, for 2 months, I'm going to be outside of my home. Well, I still wanted my home to be spick and span, very, very clean before I left. And as I was cleaning up and going through things and throwing away papers that I've had for a long time, I found the most beautiful little piece of memory that I've had since the year 2000, or should I say 1999. So I was 9 years old at the time. Yeah, I was 9 years old at the time. And here it is. It's prepare yourself for the new millennium. So even back then, I was still trying, even when I was 10 or 9 years old, I was like, yeah, I'm going to prepare for the new millennium. And I always loved, to the new year, New Year resolutions. I always love to do things like that. And I found this thing, and it's like it was a little, fun activity book where you have little like homeworks and things that you can do to prepare yourself for the new decade. And the reason why I'm sharing this here with you, it's because even if today is the last live class that we have, if you are in the Facebook group and if you aren't, well, what are you waiting for? There's still a lot of people missing on that Facebook group. So go ahead and join us in the group so that I can share with you some of these things, because of course I'm not going to share all of them because some of them are literally for just like a 9-year-old, but there's other ones that are very interesting, like what have you, like there were pages about what have you improved, what did you like, there's other pages of creating, a time candle. There's very, very interesting things. And I'm going to be sharing with you other things too, like little rituals for New Year's Eve. I love to do rituals in New Year's Eve. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I have so many, and I'm going to share them all with you in the Facebook group. So please make sure that you join us on that group. It would be a great pleasure for you if we had you over there. So like I said, I'm going to be sharing all of that with you. And some of the things that are in this beautiful book. I'm so happy I kept this since 1999. I cannot believe it. And I still remember it was like my favorite book at the time. That whole year, I spent the whole year with that book next to me all the time. So anyways, so let's go back to the finance part of things, the money, part of things for the new decade. Now, a lot of people, when it comes to money, it can be a very taboo subject, and they don't like to talk about it, and they don't like to share about it. But I think that in this new decade, we need to stop with all of that, and you need to really always know what is going on when it comes to your money. Okay, I really want you to always be aware of your money and what is going on with that. And I think that that's going to be something that you're going to need to really pay attention to in the next decade if you want to have your best decade yet. Now, I want you to do 3 things, okay, when it comes to money. The first thing you're going to have to do before the end of the year is going to be to create your budget, as simple as that. So we all know what a budget is. A budget is basically all the expenses that you have. So where do you spend your money? Where does your money go? You do a list of all of that, even the little things, like your Netflix subscription, your when you go to Starbucks, how much you spend at Starbucks, how much you spend in restaurants. Of course, then big things like your rent or your mortgage and your car payments and gas for your car and all of the expenses that you have. Write them down on a sheet of paper. The best way also to do this and to be as precise as possible is just go back on your bank statements of the past 3 months. And like that, you're going to see what are the recurring fees that happen every month. It can also be, the bank fees that you have, anything. I want you to write every single thing, every expense that you have. Once you're done with that, you're going to have a total, right? With that total, you'll know if you're in the minuses or in the red, if you're in the green or the red. Because if, let's say, you spend $5,000 a month, but you only make $3,000 a month, there is a problem. That means that every single month you're carrying on a $2,000 debt that is adding and adding and adding month after month. Like I said, that is a big problem. You don't want that. So if that were the case, if that was your situation, what you would have to do would be to either reduce your expenses, so reduce them drastically, of $2,000, or to find a way to make a $2,000 extra every single month, to find a way to do that, so that's the 2 ways. Then after you're done with your budget and you have a good idea of your current financial situation, now I want you to do a ideal future budget. What that means is that you're going to create the same thing, a list of all your expenses, but in the moment you're going to be that new identity of yours. When you're going to be living that life that you want to live, what will be all of your expenses at that point? So how much would it cost every month to have the car that you always wanted to have? How much would it cost a month to pay the mortgage of that dream house that you want to have? How much would you spend in restaurants? Maybe you dream of being able to go out every single weekend to the restaurant with your husband or with your wife. Then how much would you spend? Maybe your budget every month for restaurants would be like $1,000. Maybe you want to travel every month, so maybe you need to have a budget of $3,000 for traveling. So you just write all of the ideal expenses and your ideal lifestyle, really, and then you add them up, and then you have a total. Now, this total is going to be the total of your how much you need to make, by the end of the decade, how much you would need to make in order to live comfortably that life that you want to live. So that would be a way to see it. And then once you're done with these 2 things, and you're going to be receiving the sheets in the New Decade Challenge Facebook group. Okay, you're going to be getting that over there so that you can do it. But then once you're done with these, the next thing that you can do is to do your monthly projections for 2020. Now, if you have a business, especially if you have a business, this is something that you must do. I've been doing this every single year for the past 10 years already. Even back when in my first year of business, I made 4,000. I still did it for the second year. And the way that I would do it was that you always have to look at what year to date, how much did you make the last year? And then you can actually have a better idea of how much you would be making now. So I remember my first year in business, I made literally $4,000. Then at the end of that year, I was like, okay, I made $4,000. Now what? Now, of course, deep down inside of me, I was like, okay, next year I want to make like $8 million. Like that's how much I want to make. That's what I wanted. But I knew, even if I don't like to use this word, realistically, that wasn't going to happen, unless it was a miracle and I would launch some kind of like miracle product or something. And maybe I could have done it if I would have known all the things that I know today about online marketing and all of that. But back then I had no idea. So I was like, okay, let me be realistic. And let me say that maybe on my second year of business, I could double. I would make 8,000. Like that would be incredible. I was like, if I make 8,000, that's pretty good. I was still working at a job at the time. So I was like, that would be okay, And so I made sure that every month I put like double of what I made the year before. The year after was the same thing. I think the year after I made my first 20,000. I was so excited about that. So my, come up was very, very slow, and I'm happy it was because it really allowed me to manage, money properly and to know about money and not to go to have a big amount and go crazy, from one day to another. So that's the way that I was going. And as years were passing by, I was realizing that I was making around 40% extra. Then at some point it was around 240% of extra that happened. But the first few years, I was always in the 40% extra when I would do my projections for the year to come. And I would always look at the months. And, as I talked about the big obsession of the year, then the trimesters, the quarters, the seasons, and then the months, I would know, okay, so this month, if I'm launching this program and this program costs, I don't know, $500, if let's say I sell it to, I don't know, 10 people, let's say, then maybe I will make $5,000 that month. So that would be the amount. So you need to, as you're planning your finances for next year, 2020, not only look at what you did the years before, but also take a look at what's going to happen next year. If there's one month where you're like, I'm going to make $20,000 this month, but there's literally nothing happening, you have no marketing, no promotion, no launches, no nothing happening, how are you going to do it? It's good to have big goals. I believe in that. But you need to also have a plan, to know, okay, this is how it's actually going to happen. This is how I'm going to manifest this thing, right? So that's what I want you to do. Before the end of this year, I really want you to take the time to plan your finances properly, to have an idea of where you're going financially, to have an idea of how much you're going to be making every month in your finances. I think that that's so, so, so important. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you for this part of the lesson. And now we're going to step in to the Q&A. Okay, so into the questions, I'm going to go on our Facebook group and I'm going to be answering all of the questions that you guys have sent us. Let me have a little sip of my coffee before I do so. Now there's some questions that I have that I already answered in the French live, but I'm still going to be answering them here. Let's just see. Okay, let's go back to the first question right here. So we have Marika. So hello, Marika. I don't know if you're in the live here, if you decided to stay in the English live, but Marika, what she basically asked us is that, she says, you asked us to have one obsession per year, one big goal, one big obsession. Now, what's going to happen? I divided in the trimester, but what happens if I have a lot of things going on for next year? If I want to do a lot of things, like she mentioned a few things, she's doing the School of Freedom at the beginning of the year. She then wants to start writing a book. Then she's going to do ABA certified coach at the end of next year. So she's also moving into her own condo. So, she has a whole lot of things happening at the same time. And she's just wondering, like, how am I going to do all of that? How am I going to make all of that happen? So as I said, that's the reason why I always advocate just having one thing, right? What having one obsession and then doing all of that. Because here's the thing that you have to understand about success. When you say you're going to do this and this and that, what happens afterwards is that if you don't reach those goals, then you go down you go into this downward spiral of feeling guilty, of shame, and maybe you don't even realize it. It's on a very subconscious level, but on the spiral of shame and guilt, and you feel like you haven't accomplished what you said you were going to accomplish, and then you just feel bad, and then it's a downward spiral. Now, what happens is when you do the opposite, and when you don't have a lot of things, when you have one goal, and then you reach it, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm so amazing, I've made this happen, it's it's good, I'm so happy, then you go up on the good spiral. So that's what you have to understand about success and confidence. Reaching your little goals is going to generate confidence, and confidence gives you the ability to keep on pushing forward and moving forward, and that allows you to have success. So it's kind of like a cycle. So that's why I always say don't have a lot of things. Now, if you don't have a choice, and really a lot of things are happening at the same time, and I can really relate to that because it has happened in the past. Even in my first year, 2009, or I would say even 2010. 2010, I was releasing my first book. 2010, I remember buying a condo at the time because I was working at a job. So I had that job that allowed me to get a condo. Then I remember. What else was I doing? I wasn't doing that much, actually. Now, I was also starting videos on YouTube. I had become a certified coach at the end of 2009. So there was a few things going on at the same time, but I knew that my big priority of the year was really the book. My big goal, big priority, most important thing was the book, and everything else was something that I needed to do. But I knew that it was okay if it didn't happen. And I think that that's really the key, to know that, okay, this is really what has to happen. And then the other things, okay, it's going to be okay if they don't really happen. But I think, like I said in the French Live, from all the things that she mentioned, they're all kind of related to one another. So I think that you can still make it work, and you can still have a lot of goals, a lot of dreams, but just make sure that you don't put on too much, and then you feel disappointed, if you don't reach it. Then we had also Sophia, who says, at what moment did you change your habits and your routines, and how were you able to maintain them and not go back to the old habits and routines? And as I was saying in the French Live when I answered this question, we, how can I say, when you become the new version of yourself, right? When you create that identity that you create, then you start to step into that person. That person is no longer the old you. Therefore, those habits can no longer coexist, if I can say like that, with the person that you now are. It just doesn't happen like that. It just doesn't work like that. It's just the way that it is. It's I don't know. It's let's say for a person who's vegetarian, the moment that they do that switch very often, this is it. They're not going to be able to go back because they're no longer. And I really think that is very much that has a lot to do with how you see yourself. A person who says I'm a vegetarian or I'm a vegan, even higher, I'm a vegan. When they say I'm a vegan, then all of a sudden it becomes part of their identity. They can go back to the old self because it's now who they are, So when it comes to new habits and routines and things like that, they have to become a part of who you are for you to be able to keep them, to really keep them. And also, I think that it has to do with two factors. It's either the habits and routines that you have now are so negative and so toxic that the consequences of staying with them and keeping them are so big and so negative that you're like, I can't do that. Or the positive outcomes of you maintaining these good habits and positive routines are so incredible that you really want to keep them. You know what I mean? So it has a lot to do with the extremes. You need to be able to be like, okay, if I go back to these habits and routines, what are going to be the results in 5 years from now, in 10 years? What is my life going to look like if I continue smoking, if I continue waking up at 11 a.m. every morning, if I can, what is my life going to look like if I continue doing that? And then once you see, how negative it can be, that's when you're going to be like, okay, I'm not going back to that. And same thing for the positive results, What happens if I continue waking up at 6 a.m. and I work out every day? What's going to happen within a year when I work out every day? How am I going to look like? When it's so positive, that outcome, it's really going to push you and motivate you to stay on track. Now we have Afkide who says, maybe you can tell us a little more on those habits. What kind? Well, very good question, Afkide. That's a great question. So the habits, I share a little bit about those habits in my Instagram, often my stories. But let's say in the morning, for the habits that I have. When I wake up in the morning, I always say this, one of the first, not the one of the first, first thing I say is thank you. And I always say it out loud. I always say thank you, just to be like alive. And it's funny because it has become so, how can I say, has become so part of me basically that it happens automatically. The moment that my eyes open, I say thank you. It's really funny, and I say it out loud. So that's one of the first things. Then after that, I'm going to read a little bit of A Course in Miracles. I've been doing this for a few years now, so I'm usually going to read the day because it has a part of the book where it has all of the days. So I'm going to read that. And then I'm going to do a little bit of prayer / meditation type of thing. Then when I get up, the first thing I have to go do is I have to go wash my face, brush my teeth, and get dressed because I'm going to go to the gym. So I'm going to go work out with my trainer and have a gym in my building, which is very convenient, especially in winter, because I don't know if I would go out if I didn't have a gym in my building. Maybe I wouldn't work out in the winter. So that's the first thing. Then after that, I work out. Then when I come back home, I'm going to have breakfast, a big breakfast, because I always try to gain weight. That's one of my goals. So I'm going to have a big breakfast. And then I also drink chlorophyll water, actually, before I leave to the gym. That's one of the first things that I do in the morning, too. And then I take a shower, and then I start getting ready. Now, I went through them very fast, but if you follow me on Instagram, I'm probably going to do more also on Alexandra TV. I'm going to do morning routines and night routines. Night routines, morning and night routine, I would say that the things that I do and that I recommend everyone to do is just do something for your body, mind, and spirit. At least one thing for each. Just do something to take care of your body, do something to take care of the mind, and do something to take care of the spirit. And with that, you will be fine. You will be more than good. So that's a good question. Thank you, Orchidée. Now here we have Mona Le Prince, who also asked us a great question on the Facebook group. She says, that let me try to translate it. But she says, Dear Alexandra, I am doing the New Decade Challenge as well as the Radiant Woman program, two programs that are essential for any woman who's trying to develop her leadership in the 21st era. I don't know if that translates, which is so complex and chaotic. Congratulations for the quality of your content. Thank you so much. I went to the Montessori schools as a kid, and ever since I haven't been this happy about following a course, about doing a course. Thank you so much. Then she says, Dear Alexandra, as you know, I have launched a program for a global coaching program that was working very well, but at some point there was a reaction from a group of my students that made me doubt. They found that I was too directive, too much in my yang energy, which made me doubt a lot. They found that I was very directive. So I started to develop my feminine energy, but I think that I went too far with this, and my business started to be impacted by it. Ever since, it's been a year. I'm trying to put everything back, into place, but it's difficult to regain the position that I had. So her first question is basically, how can I be a leader as a woman who also has a very strong yang without being too without disturbing people, without disturbing whether it be the opposite sex or whatever. So as I was saying before, when it comes to this question, which is a very good one, the first thing we have to understand is that we're kind of like the test bunnies of this world right now. Our generation, we are really the first women. Well, not the first. There's been before, obviously, but we are pretty much one of the first that are we are very equal to men for the first time ever. We're this close to be completely equal to men. And that has never been seen in the past. The rights that we have, well, I should say in the Western world, of course, because it's not like that everywhere in the world. But in a lot of countries in the world, the rights that we have today as women have never been so incredible. We're doing it, ladies. We own businesses and we have our own homes, and we all of a sudden are so strong and independent, and we are embracing that yang energy, that masculine energy, and we're doing it on our own. That it's like we don't know how to deal with that and men don't know how to deal with that. So it's a very conflicting time. It's great. We're very lucky to be where we are in this world. But at the end of the day, it creates a lot of confusion when it comes to how to react. And one of the things that Mona says later on in the question is that she said also, I think she said in the chat after, because she was in live, she was saying how a lot of men were the ones who felt, that she was too masculine and she was too directive and too much in her leadership energy. And again, as I said, that is not their fault. They don't know how to deal with that. They've never seen it. A lot of these men, they have not seen their moms be like that. Their mom was a stay-at-home mom. They've never seen their grandmother be like that. We are the first generation that a lot of us were raised by mothers like that, who were independent. So we've seen that example. But now all of a sudden there's this confusion where men don't know where they stand in the world of workplace and in relationships especially, and women too. So we're very, very confused. It's exciting. It's fun, but we're literally the test bunnies of this time, and it's very, very funny. Well, it's not that funny, but it kind of is. So anyway, so to answer the question, first we have to understand that people don't know how to deal with this. We're confused. We're literally, as we go, we're learning. We don't know still how to deal with it. I know our daughters and granddaughters will now, and grandsons and sons will know how to deal with it, but us, we're kind of testing everything, right? So there's no good answer on how to be, because we're still trying to figure this out. Now, as you said, you were too much in your yang than too much in your yin. That's a problem. Again, when it comes to the energies, I really advocate and believe in a balance. There has to be the balance between the masculine and the feminine. If you're too much in your feminine, you're too much like, oh my God, like, wow, the stars and the moon and it's wonderful and I'm so happy and I don't need food. I can just, live off of air. That's literally being too much in the feminine. That's being too much in the spiritual world and not understand that you're in a physical world. And then being too much in the masculine, it's like, oh, I don't have a spirit. I don't care. Like, I'm so strong. I can do whatever. That's being too much in the physical world and not understand that there's an inner world that exists. So there needs to be an in-between. And the thing also that I said to Mona, and maybe that can help other people that are watching, is also know your clients. Because at the end of the day, yes, maybe you had some part of a fault in the situation where you were too much in the yang and then too much in the yin, but also maybe those clients that were saying that, maybe they were just not your ideal clients. It's like me. I know that my students are people who are very centered. They're very much in the middle and 50-50%, or maybe 40-50 or 60-50 or 60-40, whatever. But they have that balance between the two energies. People. And, I go to events, I go to conferences, and I see how some women and men who are very much, into the full feminine energy of like, I am a hippie, and there's nothing wrong with that. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but very much like, I'm a minimalist and I don't need nothing and I don't care about money and I live, in my van and I don't care and all I need is nature and the spirits and the spiritual world, and they wear a flower crown around their head constantly. That's wonderful and that's beautiful, and I encourage it if that's what makes you happy. But when they see me, they don't, it's not that they don't like me, but they just can't relate to me. They're not going to want me as their teacher or as their coach. You know what I mean? And that's okay. The same way that when I see it in events or something like that, men or women who are always, wearing a suit and they're like on their phone, and then they have their other phone here, and they're like, oh my God, I have a meeting right now. Oh, I don't wear, then, women, I don't wear makeup and I don't wear dresses. I don't wear high heels. I don't have time for that. Those people, again, very great if that's who they choose to be, but they're not gonna think their coach. They're not gonna want me as their coach because of how I look, and because I also embrace my feminine energy. So when you're in a situation like that, always look at yourself, of course, first, and see, okay, so I was too much in the masculine, then too much in the feminine. But then try to see, okay, maybe it's me, but what if it's just not my ideal clients? These people were maybe not my ideal clients, and maybe I have to rebrand myself to go and find the people who are actually my ideal clients. So there was those two answers that I had for Mona when it comes to that. And then when it comes to the feminine and masculine, finding that balance, always finding that balance. And feminine is all about loving yourself. It's all about self-love and taking care of yourself. So if you need to work on your feminine every day do things to take care of yourself, to love yourself. And if you need to work on your masculine, do things to be more confident, because masculine is all about the confidence and the strength and you feeling like you can accomplish things. So set goals for yourself, accomplish them, do sports, do games that you can win at, that you can be competitive at. So that would be my answer. I hope that answered the question. And then another thing that Mona also asked, it was about how can I deal with things that happen that are out of my control, when I plan and everything, how can I deal? And she was mentioning how unfortunately her dad, he is starting to have memory problems and things like that. And as I said, I completely understand that. Of course, I don't understand to her degree because it's her dad, but for me, my grandmother, she's been dealing with that for the past few years. And it's either me or my mom who take care of my grandmother very often. So there's also my aunt, of course, who helps and who's gonna take care of her. But let's say last night, I remember my mom was out and my grandmother came here and I was with her. But at the same time, as she was playing cards, because she loves to play cards, I was on my computer working. So I always try to, when there's things like that that happen, try to have it all. To work, to have that a way to find a balance. I remember in 2011, actually, a lot of people don't know, but that's when my grandfather, he passed away, unfortunately, and I was in the midst of writing my book. I would go to the hospital every day after work, and I would bring my laptop, and I was writing in his room. So as my grandfather was there at the hospital, I was always writing. So there's always a way to try to mix it. Now, of course, as I said to Mona, make sure you're also present. You don't want to always be on your laptop working when you're with the people that you love. No, like there were times where I would close my laptop, but when he was there and he was, let's say, sleeping or something like that, I would have that. So you can always find a way, to merge everything without, of course, always not being there, because you want to be there as much as you're there physically. You want to be there mentally and spiritually, but there can always be a way. And always remember that family is going to come first at the end of the day, right? So if you have a choice between your father and what you're doing, know that your father, as sad as it is, but all of our parents, they're not going to be here eternally, So you need to enjoy every moment that you have with them, and you'll have plenty of time in the future to work and to do all of that. And at the end of the day, what you're going through right now, what your dad is going through, it's all part of the plan. I really believe that it's all there to teach you things. It's all there to help you. So there's always, it's always part of the plan, really. So you need to understand that even if this is happening and you might feel like, oh my God, it's happening at the same time. And then there's a lot of things that happen that are out of my control, and I can work when I said I was going to work and I'm not doing the things that I said I planned. It's actually all already planned. So there's our plan, but there's a greater plan also that exists. All right. Then let's see here. We also have Mylis, who asked about planning. How can we do when there is last minute things? So as I said, very often you just need to go with the flow of life. Okay. When something happens that, you plan your whole week or your whole month and your day, and then all of a sudden something happens and you're like, oh my God, it's going to move everything. What am I going to do? It's okay. Don't go crazy over it. All of that was already planned. It was already in the plan, So even when there's things that happen that you feel weren't planned, it was already planned way before you even made your own plan of the year. So it's all part of the greater plan. So there's your plan and then there's a greater plan. So just go with the flow when that happens and move things around, okay? If in the first quarter of next year something happens and you can't do what you had to do, then do it for the second quarter. And then the fourth quarter is going to go to the year after. It's okay. The important thing is to plan, to have a vision, but then you need to also understand that there was a greater plan before that and go with the flow of that as well, okay? And then she also asked, let's see. My second question, which is connected to the first one, if we, I remember this question that I read before. If we consider that we incarnate to come into this world basically to live a path, So she said, okay, so we're told that we incarnate into our bodies to come and live this path, and then there's this destiny. Is it really worth it to plan if that's your destiny, or like, do you create things with the law of attraction? Like, how does that work? Like, why am I planning if this is already my path and it's already going to happen? Well, my answer to that is that, first of all, there's not a way to really know that this is the answer. I can never say like, oh, this is the ultimate answer and this is it. I'm saying this is my answer because this is such like a spiritual topic that no one really has the answer. We'll never really know. But my way of seeing things, and over the past few years, this is what my conclusion is, especially with talking to a lot of people who are very spiritual, reading a lot of books, taking a lot of courses. My conclusion is that when we come to the world, we have many, many paths that are open to us. And we have the ultimate and highest version of who we can be. Okay. So I really believe in destiny. We have a destiny, but it's as if there was this highway and there was many exits. So this highway is our destiny, but all these exits are the different options that we have to experience this life of ours. And there's different versions, and you're going to see that throughout life, there are many different choices that you have. And I think that for me, and this is very, I've never really shared this, but I'm going to do more videos about this because I think that this is important. I realize how every time that I've been in a relationship over the past 10 years, it was only 3, that I've been in relationships. I realized that it was paths where I had the choice to exit. And I knew this very well as I was in the relationship, as towards the end when the relationship maybe was going to end, and even at the beginning of the relationship, I knew it all along that I knew that if I'd stayed with this person, it was me exiting at this point, because that person, their destiny was not where I was headed and where I am headed. And I knew that I had these options that came along, and I could have exit. But it was a choice that I made to continue on and to not exit at this place, and to continue with my journey, because my goal is to reach the highest levels of who I can be. And I think that as you go through life, decisions like that are going to have to be made, whether it be, okay, so I think a lot of times it happens when it's in relationships. If I'm with this person, I'm going to exit at this path. We're going to get married. We're going to have kids, and this is going to be our path. And I might not reach the highest version of who I want to become. But I think that at some point you can do kind of a detour, and you can still go. If you choose to, if you chose to exit, then you can still, choose to go back and continue with your role. So that's really my way of seeing life. I really think that we have a path, a destiny, but we have many options. And planning and having goals and working hard and discipline, it's what is going to take you to the highest potential self that you can be. That's what's really going to take you to the highest level of who you can become. If you don't plan, then you're just going to go with, you're just going to exit wherever and whatever's going to happen. And I'm sure that no matter where you exit, you will be happy. You will be fine. Life will be good. But then there's the highest version of yourself. So it's a choice, but the highest version of yourself demands a lot. Demands a lot of discipline and hard work and all of that. So that's my answer for that, which I think is such a fascinating question. I love this kind of topic. Then we have, thank you from Stephanie Didier. Thank you for all of these questions that are also going to help me. I also have a similar type of questions. If we have to work at many things at the same time, so personal life, project, family, how can we manage everything? Very often I have the tendency of doing either everything or nothing. Instead of doing the opposite of doing little things, but regularly I just go all in or nothing. So a good question again. That's why, again, I say try to have one big project. As when I was explaining to plan your week, on the page next to the days, you always want to write the 3 main projects, right? The 3 main projects of the week, the 3 main priorities of the week. So maybe one could be family. The other one could be work. And maybe the other one could be a project that you're working on, for maybe a new business that you want to start. So you can write all of the tasks. Also on the Facebook group, you have the roles, my roles sheets, worksheet that I shared with you. And in that sheet, you can write what are your different roles basically in life, right? So maybe one of your roles is to be a mom or dad. Your other role is to be a spouse. Your other role is to be an entrepreneur or businesswoman or man. So you can write that, and then the responsibilities that come with these roles. So that's very important also to make sure you know what your roles are, what your responsibilities are, and to know what are your tasks. And to be, how can I say, a little bit, again, I don't like to use that word, but sometimes it's necessary to be realistic. If every week you create a to-do list of 50 things, and then you realize every week that you only accomplish 15, out of these, then maybe it's time for you to make to-do lists where you only have 15 things instead of every week writing 50, and then at the end of the week being disappointed and feeling like you don't do nothing, when in reality it's because you just have time to do 15 things. If you have other priorities and there's family and there's things that are happening, well, maybe do less, but the thing that always matters, always keep this in mind, is forward motion. Always keep on moving forward. It's what matters the most. Okay. Now we have some people here that are saying thank you. Well, people who participate in the live, then also asking about the yearly creator project board and weekly creator. So we have these program products that we've created over the past few years. I would share with you the one for the past. I think I'll share it on the Facebook group, actually. But we have the yearly creator that I've been creating since 2014. I think the first yearly creator came out. But this year we also have the project board. We did in the past years a limited edition, but this year we have more, as well as the weekly creator. Next year we're gonna have a lot more, like the gratitude journal. Also, we're gonna have one. We're gonna have a woman's diary. So we have a lot of different physical projects coming up. They're part of the ABA pyramid, the first level. If you want to pre-order yours, this is the time to do it. Pre-order started back in this summer, and we're going to be shipping them very, very soon so that you can get them before the end of this year. So if you want to order yours, I'm going to be sharing the link on the Facebook group so that you can do that. And I think that those products are really going to help you to plan even more for not only next year, but for the decade to come. I also think we had another question, I remember, that I said I was going to answer. Let me see here. It was from Emily. I remember Emily, she asked about her vision board that she had created. Let me see here. When I find it, I remember she was asking if she did it well, if she did it properly. If I don't find here the question, I'm just going to answer from what I remember that she had written. Oh, okay. So here we have question about day 4, the vision. So she says a little bit behind, because I guess at the time she was behind, but let's say reflecting, and visualizing going on. The vision is big, apparently. I love that. That is amazing. About the octagonal vision board, does the statement go outside of the section? And the I am so grateful now, that part go inside of it? Or how does it work? Would it be possible to have a visual example? Very good question. I don't have it with me right now. I have it somewhere else. But to answer, because I know someone shared it here in the images. So it all goes inside. Okay, it all goes inside, everything. Now, the main question goes right in the middle. Okay, so the main question is right in the middle of your vision board. And then the other ones go all around, because it's an octagon, right? So in all of the different sections. But what I like to always do, let me actually draw a little something for you here. I think that's what we're going to do so that you can visually see what it is. Now, I'm going to apologize in advance for my drawing talents, because I definitely am not talented when it comes to that. But here, like this. So what I like to do, the way I do mine, is that here is the octagon, right? Now the sentence is going to be here in the middle where you see the little circle. And then I like to put little lines, right, in each and every one of them, so that we have 8 lines, 4 on one side, 4 on the other. And then you write that. If not, there's a lot of people who wrote them here, like around this, or here, which is good too, right? So it's just a matter, the question is to just have it inside. I think that's what really is going to matter. Well, inside of the whole board. So let's say if this was the board, this is like a board like this, and I draw the thing inside. Some people just take the whole thing and then put it inside. That's okay too. That's okay too. Whether it be more on the outside or more on the inside, it is completely fine. But what I'm saying is on the inside is the I am so grateful now, that it's always on the inside. So I hope that answers the question. Now, I don't know if you have any more live questions here before I end this live and go and move on to the Spanish live, which is about to start. Let's see. Okay, so I think we don't have any more questions. Well, I thank you all so very much for being here today for this 10th and last live of the New Decade Challenge. Now, as I said, this is not as if the challenge is over, because I'm still going to be sharing a lot of things on the Facebook group. So make sure you go and join us if you haven't done this yet. And we're going to be celebrating all together when the clock hits midnight on the 31st, or should I say on the 1st. I'm going to be posting here on the New Decade Challenge group. I am so happy that you all participated in this challenge. It was a great pleasure to share with all of you. And now if you speak Spanish, I'm going to be seeing you on the other side in just a few minutes. So I'm sending you a lot of kisses and hugs. Mwah. We have Akidi who says, thanks, kisses to Coco. Yes, Coco, she's here. She's trying to sleep. She's like, Mom, stop talking. This is too early for me. That's what she's saying. All right. So anyways, have a nice day, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.